Welcome back to another exciting episode around the crypto canniverse. This international faith-based show serves as a hub for visionary entrepreneurs operating at the intersection of four key domains: Christ, crypto, cannabis, and CPAs. All faiths are welcome. Our goal is to help grow, educate, and inspire within these four C's while connecting founders to investors, advisors, and partnerships. The show is hosted by Crystal Wampler and Alan Lau. And today, our guest co-host is William J. Sump, MS, the Chief Executive Officer of Bloom Network, Inc., a campus headquartered in Santa Cruz, California, with cultivation, distribution, and manufacturing licenses. We're thrilled to have you as a guest co-host today. Welcome, William.
And thank you for having me.
Wonderful for you to be here. How's the weather in California?
Hey, not too bad. It's been a lot of rain lately, so it's nice to have some sunny weather.
A lot of rain, yeah. What about you, Alan? How's the weather out by you? Is it cold?
It's been cold. It actually this week is kind of on and off. It's been raining a little bit and then sunny and then it's cold. It's just kind of all over the place this week in California.
I miss California. I'm in cold Colorado, but it is beautiful here, but it's freezing.
Crazy.
So, yeah, very freezing. So, William, tell us, what sparked your interest in the cannabis industry and how did your background lead you to Bloom Network?
So I was first introduced to cannabis in high school, and I found the plant medicine worked as a way to relieve my anxiety and help me focus. And shortly after high school, I met a mentor, Lanny Swerlo, who was a big advocate in patients' rights and safe access. We primarily worked throughout Riverside County, trying to work, with the different municipalities there in order to have safe access for patients. That ultimately led to us opening the first dispensary in the city of Riverside, which ultimately was closed due to a Supreme Court decision on whether or not municipalities have the right to ban sales. And so, kind of fast forward to the Prop 64 environment, I founded and started Bloom Network in order to engage in the legal market and started with distribution and kind of focused on how we participate and bring brands into the new regulation.
That is really cool. What makes Bloom unique? And it seems like you've been in the industry, what, since 2010?
Uh, Probably closer to like 2006. Um,
Wow,
yeah, so I've been
that's a long time.
it has been a lot of valleys and peaks. Um, the fight for nearly 15 years just to have a piece of paper that says we can legally do what we do. So took a long way. Bloom Network, was focused primarily on brand development and supply chain management. And so we kind of really help our brands in our portfolio engage in the market, whether it be, cultivation, production, processing, fulfillment, sales, kind of the whole supply chain.
Can you tell us about a few brands that you currently have?
Yeah, so we have a rosin brand, Trilogy 710, and we have a cart and disposable brand, Mad Labs. We also have a flower brand that we work with, Thank You for Toking, and Flight Brands, which is an equity brand that we work with out of San Francisco. And then we have an in-house brand, Full Spectrum Republic.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with the Full Spectrum Republic. So, what makes you unique, and what are some of the key achievements and milestones that your company has achieved?
We were recently just awarded the third fastest growing company in cannabis by LeafLink, which is a metric they used on data and retail experience from the retailer. So some aspect of it was qualitative by speaking to the retailers, but most of it was quantitative and just looking at the data. So it's pretty exciting to be, announced as the third fastest growing company in California cannabis. And our I think it goes off to our hat as far as the quality and the consistency and the things that we provide for our brands and the customer service we provide the retailers. And so, it's kind of what stands us apart.
Yeah, and the quality is amazing. I hear that you guys are all natural. You guys use all natural products.
Yeah, we were recently awarded our CCCOF organic certification through the processing and production. We're now trying to get that at the farm as well. But we're one of only a handful of processors that have already been awarded the organic certification.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
What is your mission?
Our mission is to to cultivate community, foster compassion, and build brands with visions based on passion. And we're focused on, creating a collaborative network across the cannabis supply chain to deliver impeccable quality and consistency in the products we source, produce, and distribute.
Nice. How are you building? How do you guys go about building your community?
We work with the local Santa Cruz city for the Drop Food Not Bombs. So it's an organization that helps provide food for the homeless. We also are a clean certified. So 50% of all of our electricity consumption comes from 100% comes from renewable. 50% is wind and 50% is solar. So we have 100% renewable energy, as well as participating in local sponsorships too of youth programs, football programs, basketball programs, and just basically anything we could do. One of the programs we work with is the local dads tournament. So it's like a tournament for all the local basketball teams to play each other. So Bloom Network participates and sponsors those events as well.
That's amazing. That's very inspirational that you guys are involved in so many amazing projects and that you're giving back to the people in your community. I applaud you for that. I know that you are currently seeking strategic investors for Series A. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and what specific goals you have for this?
So Bloom Network acquired a piece of property that we're looking to develop. We have some raw land and we already have state licenses in hand and local approval for site plans and for the use. And so we're looking to basically expand our headquarters, our campus, and add cultivation and nursery indoor, and as well as like 6x our production and expand our distribution capabilities. And so we're seeking real estate financing as well as equity investment in order to fund that development and that project.
Wonderful. Where can our viewers reach out and connect with you at?
At bloomnetwork.io. That's our website. And then there's a contact us form on that website. And if you go to that form and fill it out, we'll come right to us.
Wonderful. Thank you. Do we have any other questions for William? No questions for William at the moment? Okay, let's move on. Alan, first of all, happy birthday. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much. Another year older. Thank you so much for the wishes. I'm doing great. Fantastic.
That's fantastic to hear. What Bible verse do you have for us today?
Yeah, today's Bible verse actually comes from the book of Luke, one of the four Gospels, and it comes from Luke 16:10. Is a verse from the Bible that says, "Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much, and whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much." I think this speaks about the importance of faithfulness and integrity in all aspects of life, regardless of the scale of responsibility that you may have, whether it's a little or it's a lot. You always have to be truthful, faithful, and also do things with integrity, being honest. And I think that's where God will bless you with, whether little or more or a lot. You always have to handle it in a way that you are with integrity. So always be, I would say the key learning to this would be honest and being faithful and truthful and having integrity in all things that you do. So pretty strong verse. I like it. I like it a lot. That's how I feel about it.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Today, we have the pleasure of interviewing Naomi Granger, a visionary leader who has chartered a unique path from the prestigious world of Big Four accounting to the flourishing cannabis industry. With over 15 years of experience in both public and industry accounting, Naomi's expertise transcends spreadsheets and boardrooms. Recognizing a critical gap in the cannabis sector, she embarked on an entrepreneurial journey, founding the National Association of Cannabis Accounting and Tax Professionals. also known as NACAT Pros. Driven by a mission to empower accountants and elevate the financial landscape of the cannabis industry, NACAT Pros equips professionals with the tools and knowledge to navigate the dynamic and evolving space. By advocating the collaboration and fostering value-driven practices, Naomi is transforming the perception of accounting from a high-pressure profession to a catalyst for positive change. Naomi's passion and expertise have garnered her recognition in leading publications like Marijuana Business Daily, The Wall Street Journal, and Forbes. Her journey resonates with those seeking purpose and innovation within their careers, while offering invaluable insights for navigating the complexities of the cannabis industry. So buckle up as we explore the fascinating world of cannabis accounting with Naomi, a leader who is redefining the industry one green balance sheet at a time. Welcome, Naomi.
Thank you so much. That was a lot.
It was a
Thanks
lot,
for
but you have been in the
happy to be
industry
here.
for so long. I wanted to make sure we did you justice.
Thank you. Yeah, and they say it's a dog year, so 7 years is like 49 now.
Oh my goodness. Well, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'd like to know what drew you from the Big Four into the cannabis industry, and what specific skills did you learn from the Big Four that you applied to the cannabis industry?
Yeah, so it wasn't a direct line. I was in external audit in the Big Four, and so I really understand books and records. I understand internal controls and how to present financial statements. And so I feel like that skill set is really necessary in the cannabis industry because it's not just bookkeeping. It's not just doing accounting and presenting financial reports. It's almost like a mini audit, at least monthly or quarterly for your clients, because we need to make sure that everything is documented, everything is lined up and ready because they are so highly regulated. They have the state agencies coming after them. They have the federal agencies auditing them. And so it's important that it's a lot more buckled up in this industry, especially since it's kind of a gray area. We don't really have an answer. We just kind of have to do things the way that we think is best. And so that audit background comes in very useful.
That is really interesting. The cannabis industry is changing so much so quickly. How do you stay up with everything?
Well, I do things like this. I subscribe to all the different publications, Marijuana Business Daily, Marijuana Ventures, Marijuana Moment, Ganjapreneur. I try to read the headlines, watch the headlines. But then the whole reason that I formed the National Association of Cannabis Accounting and Tax Professionals is also a selfish reason, because when I joined, I felt like it was hard to understand what was going on in the industries besides what we saw in the publications. And so I bring on experts from all over the cannabis industry, from all over the country. We speak to tax attorneys to understand what they're seeing with their tax cases that we may not get to see because it may not become a tax court case that we can read. We speak to bankers. We speak to people who are offering financing. We speak to insurance providers to understand what's the risk with our clients and what are you seeing and which policies are getting paid, which policies are not getting paid. So the purpose of that is to bring experts in so that my organization and the accountants within the organization can have a more broader understanding of the industry besides just understanding the debits and credits for their client.
That is so important. How do you communicate with everyone? What pages or social media or platforms do you use?
Yeah, well, the main platform that I'm using is LinkedIn. I feel like that's where a lot of business professionals and people interested in the industry are hanging out. I'm on all the socials, but I'm more actively involved with posting on LinkedIn.
That is so interesting. What's the most interesting interview you've had?
Um, I like the psychedelics ones, which is completely off topic, but
Interesting.
we're moving into the legalization of psychedelics. And so I like understanding. So cannabis was, it's kind of following the same path, but it's going more quicker. The adoption it looks like it's quicker than it was with cannabis. And it's because we've already got trials out there. We've already got more research in the psychedelics industry than we ever had in cannabis. And so just understanding the business model is so different. Cannabis is more of a commodity you're purchasing and consuming daily, but with psychedelics, it's more of you're selling a service and you're selling an experience, and you're typically not going to do this daily unless it's a microdose or something like that. So it's been really interesting watching that kind of open up and unfold.
That is interesting that you're a CPA by trade and that you want to be on the cutting edge, it seems, of everything. You pioneering the cannabis industry. Now you're doing psychedelics. What's next?
Oh, that's all I can handle. That's all I can handle right now.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Can you tell us a little bit more about your community and how people can join?
Yeah, so the association is a membership. You pay a monthly dues or you can pay it annually. And once you join, you have access to a members area, and then we also send you access to all of our we announce when we announce all of our speakers. So you can join on the presentation live, or you can watch the replay within our members area. But we've done this for 3 years now, and we've had 2 speakers a month. So when you join the members area, you'll have a huge database of speakers that you can tap into. We've spoken directly with the IRS a couple of times, specifically asking them, the IRS Small Business and Self-Employed Examination Department, how are you training your examiners when they're coming to audit our clients? Because there's no audit guides for cannabis. How do you look at specific tax codes like 471C? Because there's no court law for 271C. We don't even know if we can do it or if we can't. So we spoke to them specifically. We've spoken to a number of attorneys and a number of insurance providers to help better understand the risk. So you'll have access to all of that. You could probably find anything that you're looking for. And it's pretty much, my association is geared towards accounting and tax professionals, but I feel like any operator, this information could be useful to them as well. So NACATPros.org, or you can email me, Naomi at NACATPros.org, NACATPROS.org.
It sounds like this would be a great opportunity for, companies that are building technology or, service providers, that are wanting to get into the cannabis industry, or maybe they're already in the cannabis industry, like R&D specialists, people that are creating advisory services to come and present to your association. Do you do things like that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. With the expert speaker sessions, we have different professionals come in, so you can always email me. And if you're interested in presenting what you have, if you have something that can be useful to accountants and their clients, because that puts you in front of, we have over 200 accountants in our network, and it puts you in front of their clients. So yeah, feel free to reach out.
That's wonderful. You have a huge network as well. So it's not like they're just, presenting to, a few people. It's thousands of people. You've built a network of, 26,000 people. How did you go about building such a big network, and what is your focus?
Yeah, so I've been using, so on LinkedIn I have around 19 or 20,000 followers there. And then using Facebook ads, I've got a free Facebook group, and my thing is just to provide value. These expert speaker trainings and webinars, I've been opening those up, so anybody who's interested in seeing the live presentation can join. members can see the replay. So just providing that, and then using creative clickbait titles to make people want to come into the presentation to learn more about whatever this expert speaker has. But I mean, the goal is to reach out and find unique people who are doing different things in the industry. Like James was on one of ours last month, and that was a hit because nobody has seen what he's doing. And I feel like it's important that what he's doing gets out there, and other states can possibly adopt that model and create more value to the industry. So just bringing on good speakers and good topics that people will be interested in.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. We have a question. Amanda.
Hi, Naomi. I know I met you like a year ago, so it's nice to see your face again. I did have a question. I know you're more working towards this networking group that you put together, which is great. Do you still have your hands in helping clients and doing accounting and bookkeeping? And then I know you said you did 7 years. That's amazing.
Yeah. So I do have my own book of business, but it's a small, it's just me, because it's almost like I'm running 2 or 3 businesses at once. But yeah, I keep my own book of business so that I can keep my ear to the ground. I can know what's going on with my clients, and I can be able to use that information to help find answers for them, and then help other accountants in the industry learn from what I'm learning as well.
I feel like being an accountant in the industry is like you're also having to be an advocate for them. Like I've never talked to the government so much in my life since being part of this. And then so you've been doing it for 7 years. How much has it changed from then till now?
Well, we went from 8 adult use states to over 24. I think, I don't know the numbers, 24, 26, something like that. So when I started 2017, Nevada just came on board, and California wasn't even started until January of 2018. So if you could just imagine how big that opened up. And then the Northeast came on board, and then we have New York on board. So it's just with all of this new states coming on board, also being able to see some markets mature. So when I started in 2017, my clients were hot and heavy, cultivation. They were selling the product before the harvest was done. They never had to think about marketing. They were getting top dollar per pound. And then 4 years in, it hit a wall. And then it's almost like the commodity, the people, other states opened up, so people didn't have to come to Nevada to get their product, because now their state is open and they don't have to risk a felony trying to get that product back home. And so, you know, we were banking on the tourism, but then when it dropped a little bit, it kind of matured, and now we have to pivot and figure out how to market ourselves and how to build brand loyalty, and what's next to continue with growing. So it's just kind of seeing the ebbs and flows, seeing how slow regulation is, seeing people start to adapt. When I started, I had people coming to me and they were like, absolutely not. I'm not touching it. I don't even think it should be legalized. It's the devil's lettuce. They have all these bad, connotations about it. And then a year, 2 years in, these same people are coming back to me and saying, whoa, my spouse just got diagnosed with cancer, and this is the only thing that's providing them with relief. Now I'm kind of understanding that this is actually a medicine, that this is, the wool was over my eyes. So also seeing the adoption of the population, it's nice seeing something just open up in an industry just open up in our country.
Do you feel like accountants are more opened up to it? I know you have a group of 100, but I feel like when you're advertising this, like, do you still, so people like, I'm not touching that. That's still too scary.
Yeah. So I, at the beginning, when I first started, it was more of I had to educate people that this wasn't actually something that you can do. And so it was more of like education before they were like, okay, I want to try it. Because when I started, nobody even thought about going into this niche or going into this industry. And so at the beginning, I did get some accountants who were just like, I don't believe it. I don't believe it should be legalized. But now most of the people, they know who I am. And so when they come to me, they're already open and ready to talk about cannabis. And I rarely get people who don't. Maybe they just avoid me if they're not interested in it. But yeah, the people who do come to me are open and ready to. There's still a lot of fear. There's still a lot of people who are afraid they're going to lose their CPA license if they work in this industry. They're afraid that they're going to lose their other clients who may not be advocates of the industry. So there's still that that I see.
I kind of like that you have this group of CPAs who are willing to talk to each other. And I think that's one of our show's things too, is everyone's willing to talk about, themselves, and they're like, there's people for everyone, let's help each other. And so seeing that there's 200 CPAs, they're like, no, it's okay. There's enough business for everyone. Let's talk and let's chat. I know when we spoke, I only had like one client, but we did look at it and it was really cool to see. And so I'm so glad it's going well. And you're still practicing as a CPA too? So you're in the thick of it?
Oh yeah, yeah. I still have my license. I just renewed it in December and I'm still going. But I do, if you look at the industry, it's like a $33 billion industry as of, I think the last stat I got was 2022. I don't think 2023 numbers I haven't seen those yet, but it's a $33 billion industry. So to think, and there's only maybe 150,000 accounting firms in the country. So to think that there's not enough for everybody, this is not that industry.
I
love
realized
that.
I was muted. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mitch, you have a question?
I do. Hi, Naomi. Pleasure to meet you.
Hey, nice to meet you as well.
So I have an M&A background. I'm also a CPA, but I'm always really interested in these, evolving landscapes and industries, how you've been seeing kind of M&A play out within cannabis and even psychedelics, and, some trends that you're looking at. I do financial due diligence, so I help people buying or selling companies kind of assess the books of what they're attempting to buy or sell. So would love any insights you have on the evolution of that landscape as things start to consolidate more.
It is so active. So I don't have any experience with M&A, but I do know that there's always sales going on. There's a lot of people get a license and they even sell the piece of paper without even standing up a business. So yeah, it's a very active market. It's really tough because how do you even value a piece of paper in a brand new market that, doesn't really have any legal sales yet? It's based on what somebody's willing to pay for it. So it's kind of like, hard to really wrap your brain around. We're starting to get a little bit more data out there. So there are things like New Frontier data as data sources to kind of understand what the market is, or maybe if it's a brand new market for that state, what a neighboring state or what a similar state might look like. But it's very active, and there's a lot of opportunity if that's a direction that you'd want to go.
Yeah, fantastic. I imagine there would be some very unique challenges. I have a lot of exposure to cryptocurrency, and there's a very similar set of challenges with the ever-changing landscape that you really have to stay in touch on.
Yeah.
So it's great to have specialists like yourself really working towards that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mitch, how could you take some of the things that you've learned in the cryptocurrency M&A world and apply them to the cannabis world?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's really just about understanding the regulations and the risks of each industry. I always think of M&A where there's a core set of things that you must get comfortable with for any business, right? So checking that everything reconciles to records and looks like it makes sense. But then there's always the industry specific challenges that you have to layer on top of that. So in cryptocurrency, as an example, you have to make sure that, all the movements across blockchains are really accurately tracked, and that everything reconciles and really makes sense to the overall story and trend that a buyer or seller is trying to convey to the opposing party. So I imagine there's a lot of similarities, and especially within cannabis, I think there's a lot more cash movements, which always makes for a more difficult M&A activity because it's not quite as traceable.
Yeah, and cannabis is a commodity, and so the commodity price drops and ebbs and flows. And then also there's a loophole or there's an issue of having to get approved for the actual license for you to actually sell the cannabis. So there's that regulation that comes in there as well.
No question. I always team with a really good M&A lawyer who has industry experience as well for that exact reason.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions, comments out there?
I have a question.
Okay.
I was wondering how you advise your clients or help with your clients. I know there's often issues where the local tax will want to tax the state tax and the state tax will want to tax the local tax. And then even, there's like this double taxation, or in some jurisdictions, even a triple taxation where they're taxing us on tax. And just how do you, with being a risk adverse client, how do you advise your clients to kind of navigate that? Or what are you doing to help your clients combat the overtaxation?
Yeah, so first of all, we have to understand the legal entity structure and determine what's the best legal entity structure for the business and their goals. And then from there, make sure that we clearly understand the rules and the regulation so that we're properly budgeting. Because you can't avoid the tax, you have to pay it, but we need to properly budget. So as we're going through, and then we also help them understand some of the other options. So if it's a dispensary, they can maybe exercise the tax code to 471C at the federal level. If it's a cultivator, then we need to help them understand, hey, these are the types of expenses that are deductible, and these are the type of expenses that are not. So let's minimize these and maximize these. Also, if they're selling if it's a dispensary and they're selling non-cannabis products, like maybe CBD or paraphernalia or things that could be significant, helping them understand how to organize their business so that more of the operations are attributable to the CBD products, which is legal, and you can write off your rents and all your operating expenses towards that, and put less towards the cannabis side. So just making sure that we understand the landscape of the business, and then advising our clients on, hey, this is how it's going to look from you from a tax perspective. And here are all your different options. And another thing that a lot of accountants may not know is 280E is a federal tax code, and it's states conform to the federal tax code. But because states are legalizing cannabis, a lot of states are going back and saying, hey, now that we have this legalized in our state, we're no longer conforming to 280E at the state level. So if some of these states are slow to update their regulations, so you might read the regulations and it says we do conform, but then there might be a recent court case where a dispensary challenged the state and said, hey, I'm operating a legal business. I shouldn't have to pay 280E taxes at the state on my state income tax. And they won. And so we have to also talk to our clients and say, hey, we're still in the gray area. I have this code over here that says they don't conform, but I have this court case that just closed last month that says that, the state allowed them to take these expenses. So do you want to take the risk? Do you want to take these expenses, or do you want to try to amend in the future? So just helping them understand all the different aspects of it, and helping them understand that, any position you take may be a risk, but this is our support. This is how we're going to support that position.
Thank you.
Earlier, I was telling you how we had issues in Hemet with the city. Like, we felt like the taxes was going in a circle because they're like, well, I want to tax from what they tax, and we had to keep amending it. And we realized, and this was more one of the tax managers who had to actually meet with the state and then meet with, the FTB to figure this out. But for when you're filing with the state, you're not going to put the city tax on it. Then after the federal, then you put the city tax on it. But they were taxing city, then they were taxing federal, then the state's like, no, I want you to fix it. So it just like understanding and being able to explain is so big, because we too weren't understanding why it felt like a circle. And so when the city gets involved, it's so important that you're there when your client's there, because it doesn't reach them like it might us. Like the verbiage gets different, especially with the federal too.
I think the Assembly Bill 195, right? They're drafting a new bill to try to fix that, at least in the state of California. It didn't pass last year, but I guess they're trying to get it again this year.
Yeah, they just need to get on the same pages. And that's what the issue is.
And that's another thing, because every single state is different.
Yeah.
And so when I work with the accountants that I do the training, education and training with, we teach state rules. We help them, we say, hey, I mean, you can do this remotely, but even if you're in a state like Texas or Florida where you don't have a program, you can target a state that has an adult use program, but you need to make sure that you understand that state and their excise tax, their cultivation tax, their marijuana retail tax. You need to understand all of that, because that is way more. I mean, eventually the 280E tax on the federal level will be a thing, but that is something you're filing monthly or quarterly, and you can cost your client a lot of money if you get that wrong.
In that regard, what are the key strategies that you recommend for your cannabis clients and how to build a strong and compliant foundation with the tax authorities?
Yeah, just having a good team in place. So, and I always advise that your bookkeeper, accountant, and your tax preparer, tax CPA are two separate people. So getting it's these businesses, especially when you're getting into the $3 to $5 to $8 million businesses, you can't just go out there and find that one accountant who can do everything unless they have a team, unless they're in a firm and they have the professionals who can handle all the different aspects. But these businesses, they need to build a team, 2 to 3 people to start, and maybe 4 to 5 people, just to make sure that everything is being captured and recorded properly, and that you have the right level of expert looking at things. Because when you have just maybe you do have a fractional CFO who is qualified, they understand taxes, they understand accounting, but if they're in the books and on the phone with the bank because the bank made a deposit wrong and they're trying to fix it, and they're spending the whole week fixing that, they're not abreast of the recent tax issues that just came out. And so then when it's time to file the tax return, they've got to get caught back up. So it's hard. You shouldn't have that one person who's trying to have their hands in every single aspect of the business.
Can you give us an example of like a dream team of founders and tax professionals that work together to kind of advance tax policy anywhere in a particular state or the country?
Yeah, so I really feel like you should have like that accountant or record keeper, somebody who's maybe who's physically there, who's tracking down invoices, making sure inventory counts is happening, making sure cash is being counted, like is physically there to handle the day-to-day and communicate that to your accountant. And then you need that accountant, and it could be remote. Even if they're local, they're probably going to be working from their own office. But you have that accountant who can be maybe a fractional CFO or maybe kind of like a accounting manager type role. And then you need that tax CPA who's separate, who's filing your tax returns. But then you also need a tax attorney who understands cannabis tax, so that you can kind of, the tax CPA and the tax attorney can work together and bounce positions off of each other, and help each other understand these positions better.
That's a term I hear a lot, the fractional CFO. Can you define that or what that role is or how that person fits into the entity?
Yeah, so a fractional CFO is kind of like, if you think about a CFO for a corporation, a CFO is an in-house CFO is going to be really expensive, 6 figures, $250,000 to hire a CFO in-house. So a fractional CFO is more of like, I'm going to perform these services as a CFO, meaning I'm going to be reviewing the work of the accountants that are under me. I'm going to be giving you advice, consultations. I'm going to be doing, looking at your numbers and projections and budgets to actuals and making recommendations, helping you understand how to save money in different areas and things like that. So they're more of a consultant. They're reviewing they're not doing the day-to-day accounting. They're not the bookkeepers who are entering the transactions, but they're more consulting, and they may be doing some type of training at that level. But when they're fractional, it's more of you have like a part-time CFO rather than having to go out and spend the money to hire an in-house CFO to run your business.
Is there any future events or milestones that you project coming forward that could help change tax policy or help, or anything that you're like that's on your radar?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you guys have been seeing, but the Department of Health and Human Services has issued a letter to the department, the Drug Enforcement Agency, the DEA, to reschedule cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. And so it's supposed to happen next month. Like the DEA is supposed to come up with their decision next month. And if that were to happen, we don't know what it's going to look like. There can be so many different changes. The most beneficial change, because 280E applies to Schedule 1 and Schedule 2 substances. So if it's moved to Schedule 3, 280E goes away, it no longer applies. However, cannabis would be the only drug on this, well, currently is the only drug on the scheduling that has an adult use program, an adult use application where you can buy it. You can just walk into the store and buy it. No other drug, all other drugs, you have to have a prescription from the doctor to buy all of their scheduled drugs. And so there's a fear that there's a possibility that the government, if it moves it to Schedule 3, it turns into a pharmaceutical, and then it completely changes the program. People have to go and get a prescription in order to buy the cannabis, which would completely overhaul the foundation, the infrastructure that's currently built across these 24 states that are legalized. So that's something that we're looking at. I am being optimistic, and I doubt that they're just going to completely overhaul this industry. I think they're just going to make an exception, move it to Schedule 3, eliminate 280E, and then make it so that you can still, I mean, the programs still operate the same, but now it's a Schedule 3 substance instead of Schedule 1.
Do you do any CFO work yourself?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And then do you know if there's any workarounds for the 280E that you've experienced at all?
Yeah, so the only workaround that we actually have seen work successful and have spoken to tax attorneys who have actually fought this in court and won is 471C, which is a tax code that came from the Trump's Tax Cuts and Jobs Act back in 2012, when he overhauled the tax code. And it was well, no, it wasn't 2012, it was like 17 or something like that. But when he changed the tax code, he added this thing called 471C, which says that as the business owner, you can elect to determine how you want to manage your books and what you classify as inventoriable cost. So that means if you're a dispensary, because right now the code says you can only write off the cost to acquire the product. So you buy flower and maybe you paid 50% margin. And so you can just write off the cost to acquire plus any applicable transportation to get it to your store. And then that's it. But we understand that dispensaries have bud tenders, they have facilities, they have stores, they have vaults that they have to store the product in. Like there's a lot of costs that come with operating a dispensary. And so with 471C, you can allocate some of those reasonable costs into inventoriable costs and write them off as cost of goods sold. And then just the basic like advertising and marketing can't be written off. Administrative offices, office managers, things like that can't be written off. So you minimize the items that you can't write off and then maximize the things that are focused on actually handling the plant and selling the plant.
Yeah, we ride that cost of hard really carefully. That's a fine line, but oh yeah, absolutely. Cost of goods saves a lot of the clients.
Yeah, and I mean, every single accountant is different. Some of us are so conservative that they're like, absolutely not. I don't care what 471C says. I'm going by the book. And some are like, hey, I'm going to take the risk. I'm going to just advise my client of the risk. And that's the reason why we brought the IRS on. We're like, well, how do you guys look at this? And they said to us, as long as it's reasonable. So don't write 100% off, just take reasonable cost and support your numbers.
Yeah, be realistic, be reasonable, be as honest as possible.
Right.
What are some typical fines if you don't follow the 280 rule? What are some fines that they
So it's based on, you know, your tax liability, percent penalties, you know, whatever the penalty is for underpayment of taxes, late payment of taxes, the percentage against whatever your tax liability is. So it's the same as what we would get if we don't pay our tax, our individual taxes, or any other business doesn't pay their taxes. But it'd be a lot larger if you have a huge tax bill, because it's a percentage of the amount that was owed. But yeah, there's a lot of different ways that these companies are fined outside of just not paying 280E out of a 280E audit. They can be fined if they're not filing their Form 8300s, which is cash. If they collect cash greater than $10,000, those fines are pretty high. They're fined by the state and local governments for compliance reasons. If their inventory doesn't match what's in metric, they have to destroy it, or they have to, you know, do different things. Like, there's so many different ways that they're penalized by just not being compliant. And so it's important that we understand these things as accountants and we're properly advising our clients.
I think one of the big things too is banking. Some of the marijuana banks, they cost so much money. Have you had any good experience with any banking with your clients that you prefer over another? Yeah, me either.
So
Me either.
I haven't had that great experience yet. And it's sad because I've got clients who've paid upwards of $2,500 a month for their bank. They don't get a debit card. They can't just walk in and make a deposit or make a withdrawal. It's like, what services are you providing to us? And so they make it so difficult for you to get money in, to get money out. And then a lot of these banks are local credit unions. And, you know, I mean, I've worked with credit unions, but the majority of my personal money goes through a larger organization. So I'm used to, there are certain things that you just take for granted, like your deposit's going to be right. And, you know, that the transaction is going to be done properly. But with these small credit unions, a lot of times, a lot of that stuff is being done manually, and you'll make a deposit and every single month, at least once or twice a month, we're on the phone with the bank saying, hey, the deposit was incorrect. You didn't cash this check, or something happened. There's always something that happens. And then they have to go through their system and go through this person and that person. And so it just takes a lot more time. And then, like, why am I paying $2,500 a month for this level of service? So it's almost like we went backwards in time with the level of service we get, but we're paying so much more, not 1,000 times more than what an average business would pay for banking services.
I had some wishful thinking. I thought, oh, maybe there's a light at the end of the tunnel. She knows somewhere, but I'm hoping that changes. I don't know if we see it changing in the future. What's it's going to take for that to change, and banks to be like, okay, I will hold your money, but I don't know.
I think the rescheduling to Schedule III may help with that, because then it's not, well, it's still, I don't know how the federal legality works because it's a Schedule III, but I think it may make banks a little bit more comfortable with accepting cannabis cash. So that's kind of the thing that we're holding out for right now.
At least soften their hearts a little bit, one step closer.
Yeah, yeah.
When's the last time you've accepted cash from a cannabis company as payment?
Oh, I've never accepted cash. So all of my clients have been banked. So I've always accepted money that way.
And why is that?
Well, I don't want to have to go to the bank and deposit a chunk of
Okay, I was
cash.
just curious. I was all, oh.
I don't have to deal with its Form 8300s. But I've just never been in that situation where I've had a client that could not pay me through banking. But I know,
What about
and
you, Amanda?
They love their
late.
cash. It's fine. Yeah, they can pay us in cash.
You get paid in cash?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, sometimes.
Okay. Yeah, I started late. I know
they get their receipt, goes to the bank, nothing crazy.
Yeah.
Mitch, did you have a comment?
I do. So I have a bank I highly recommend. I think they do a fantastic job, and they're on the precipice of like cryptocurrency as an example. They're called Meow. They're relatively new. I just pinged them on Slack that quickly asking this question, and he got back to me right away. He says, you can't get a checking account, but you can get a T-bills account, and you can actually make payments through there. They're an excellent bank for anyone who wants them in general. I would highly recommend. It's like pretty much $0 at any point, free international wires, etc. So maybe check that avenue out. I can't say I've done it for a cannabis company, but it might be worth a try.
I'd say too,
Yeah.
Dama banking. I've used Dama banking now for almost 4 years. They do charge a monthly fee, and they do even charge me a deposit percentage of my deposits. But the customer service and the helpfulness, and they have been able to get secured credit cards. They now even offer debit cards and do international wires. So just from personal experience, and the best feature is they have Dama Pay, which if you're working with another Dama client, which a lot of cannabis clients have Dama banking, Dama to Dama is instant and free.
Yeah,
Oh, that's nice.
their safe fees are very expensive though, but I think it's probably worth it.
The
Yeah.
convenience, yeah. So understanding as an operator, I can't get insurance on my cash holdings. So even if I have a vault and a safe, there's often fine print in the general liability that in the event of in a robbery or burglary, the cash is actually not insured. And so with the smart safe, I'm paying, if you look at it as insurance, as soon as I get that money in that smart safe, it's no longer my money and it's insured.
Those are great questions and comments. Thank you guys so much for sharing your resources. Naomi, I know that you have a huge network of founders, coming to you and asking you for help. At what point do you take them on yourself, and at what point do you, share them with your community?
Yeah, so when I talk to them, it just depends if it's something interesting that I want to get more of an insight on. So it depends on what they're doing, but for the most part, if they're too big for me, I pass them on to the members of my organization. Or like I get a lot of people coming to me from New York, and I just don't want to have to. I'm in Las Vegas, so I don't want to have to deal with anybody that far out. And New York just kind of scares me. So I give that. And the way that my organization is organized is regional. So all of my members are regional experts. And so they do research in their region, and then we come together as a group and talk to each other about, hey, what's going on in the Northeast? What's going on in the Midwest? What's going on in the South? And so that we can get that collective knowledge. But then whenever a client comes, I send them, if it's a New York client, I send them to the Northeast region, because I know that they're doing the proper training, and it's impossible for one person to just be well-versed on every single state in this country. So I'd rather them go to somebody who really understands that state.
So do you have an intake form, or how does that work?
Yeah, I have an intake form for people who are looking for an accountant. I can drop it in the chat if you guys would like. Let's see.
That would be wonderful. And where could our listeners go and find that at?
Yeah, so I don't have it just on actually I do. Go to my website. I actually did just add it. So if they go to NACATPros.org, NACATPROS.org. The top menu has Find an Expert. And on that page, I have all the different accountants, some of the accountants who decided that they wanted to put themselves there. But when you're on that page for a little, like a couple of seconds, a form will pop up that you can fill out right there on that screen.
Yeah, that is wonderful. I urge, any founders that are looking for the appropriate CPA to reach out to Naomi and go check out her site. And any CPAs that are trying to, learn about the cannabis industry or build their practice. I know that, I see from other CPAs that I've worked with in Naomi's group, we've seen referrals from Naomi come out, several referrals a week of founders looking for, CPAs and accounting teams to help them. So Naomi's network is fantastic. She not only helps train you, brings together a network of a plethora of information and different service providers, but then she also helps you find jobs and ways to actually put your skills to use. So please, if you would like to learn any more information, please reach out to Naomi Granger. Naomi, what is the best place for someone to reach out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, they can just email me directly, Naomi at NACATPros.org, Naomi at NACATPros.org. My website, I have a link at the top to our Facebook group. I have a Facebook group that I communicate, or even on LinkedIn. Just reach out to Naomi Granger on LinkedIn. Yeah, you can find me. I'm pretty out there.
Yes, you most definitely are. I will drop all your information also on social media sites for you as well. And then also, if you're a service provider, R&D, cost segregation, insurance provider, and you have something new for the cannabis industry, or maybe you're just a very good service provider and you would like to reach more CPAs and clients, please reach out to Naomi as well. Naomi, thank you so much for joining us today. We greatly appreciate it. William, thank you for joining us and being our guest co-host. We very much appreciate it as well.
And thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Naomi.
You are most welcome. If we don't have any other questions or comments, then we are going to go ahead and close in prayer and wish everyone a happy weekend and safe weekend.
All right, let's bow our heads and pray, everyone. Dear God, thank you so much for this wonderful day that we can get together in many different locations and states. And thank you for our guest speakers, William, Naomi, to educate us, inspire us, and update us about cannabis taxes, as well as the environment and what William's doing at his Bloom Farms. And just pray that you continue to bless us in all things that we do, continue to help each other grow and inspire us and educate and network with each other, so that way we can glorify you. Just pray for the weekend that you be with us, and all things that we do continue to instill integrity in all of us, faith, and continue to bless us in all things that we do. In Jesus' name, pray. Amen.